Hello, my good friends. How you doing today? This is episode 10 of BTD5 Science, and today I wanted to talk about infinity. So this is less of a science topic than normal and more of a math type topic, but I felt like I should talk about infinity not only because it's super unbelievably interesting, but also it's super important to understand some things with the universe that have to do with infinity, and if the universe is actually infinity long or infinity big or infinity anything. Is anything actually exists that is infinity? So I wanted to talk about all these things in this video. I'm going to try and do my best to try and explain infinity, and we'll see how things go along here. If you guys still have any problems, let me know and I'll try and make an update video or I'll try and answer some questions in the comments. So, first things first, I have to explain to you guys that infinity is an unbelievably large number that you could not possibly fathom if you ever thought about it ever. But just thinking about some sort of smaller numbers that we can sort of comprehend. So, if you thought about how many meters is it around the Earth, so if you just took your hands and said about 3-ish feet or just about a meter, how many meters go around the Earth? That's about 10 raised to the 7th, or in scientific notation, 1 times 10 to the 7th. I'm going to do all these in scientific notation so you guys understand how big these things are, how big these numbers can actually get. That's also 1 with 7 zeros after it. The next one is how many cells are in our body, which, by the way, there's a lot of cells in our body. There is about 10 to the 13th cells, 13 zeros in our body. How many meters are there in the universe? Oh my goodness, the universe is a massively gigantic object, obviously. There's 10 raised to the 26 meters in the universe. But not only that, hold the phone. How many atoms are in your body? There's approximately 10 to the 27th atoms in your body. So there's more atoms in your body than there are meters in the universe, at least distance wise across. And I think that is a huge number, by the way. And then, oh my goodness, guys, what could possibly be bigger than those things? How many atoms are in the entire universe? The entire universe. There's 10 raised to the 82nd power, 82 zeros. Now that is a large number, but you have to understand that's not even reasonably close to the word infinity. Infinity goes on forever. No matter how big of the number you think of, there's always going to be that bigger number, and that bigger number is going to be infinity. If you take googolplex times googolplex times googolplexes to raise to the googolplexes on top of googolplex squared, it's still nowhere near infinity. And you have to understand that infinity is just this number that you could never actually reach. So in math, infinity describes a number where it's going to. It describes where a number is going to end up. It doesn't actually describe a number itself. But infinity is still not considered a number. Infinity is not a number. It's considered a non-real number. And the only time we actually use infinity is, like I said, when we're describing where a number is actually going to end up after infinity amount of time, by the way. So you can only really use infinity to describe infinity. It's complicated, I know. So, when we're dealing with a graph or something, we usually just think of it as when x is infinity, y is infinity, or when x is negative infinity, y is negative infinity. And it also brings up a good point. Negative infinity. Whoa, where is this thing coming from? Can you have negative infinity, and can you also have positive infinity? Yeah, I mean you can. So, what would happen? Oh, this is a philosophical question, guys. What would happen if you went from negative infinity to positive infinity? So you already have infinity if you're going from 0 to infinity. But what if you went from negative 8 to infinity? Or what if you went negative infinity to infinity? What's the number that encompasses? It's still just infinity. So that doesn't make much sense to us because we're usually logical beings and we think if you have some sort of number, it can always get bigger. But infinity does not get bigger. It is the biggest number that it could possibly ever be. Also, what's infinity plus 1? It's still infinity, guys. Infinity times infinity, still infinity. What about infinity raised to the infinity power? It's still just infinity. So, you guys have to understand that infinity is just this unfathomable number that is so unbelievably gigantic that no matter what you do to it, it's still going to be just infinity. Infinity just minus infinity? Now that's a more complicated question. I don't really know. I don't know what infinity minus infinity is. I'd call it 0, but I think a lot of people would say it's infinity. Um, but what if you divide by 0? So what if you have this if you have a fraction and you have 5 on the top and you have 0 on the bottom, what is 5 divided by 0? Whoa, is that infinity? So let's think about this in a little bit different way. Let's say we have 5 over 0. The way division works is you have the number on the bottom. How many numbers on the bottom does it take to get to the number on top? So if you took 0 and you had 5 trillion of these zeros, and you just kept adding them up, 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, you'd never, ever, ever make a dent in reaching to that 5. So even if you had infinity amount of zeros, you would never get to 5. And that's why when you have 5 over 0, it's actually not infinity, it's undefined. It's something that could never possibly happen. While infinity can technically happen even though it's not a real number, it has to be undefined for that math problem or that equation. So that's pretty much it for the math portion of this. Now I wanted to talk about a little bit more about the science portion of infinity, and I'm gonna get kind of philosophical on you guys, and I'm trying to boggle your brain here about what infinity actually means according to the universe, and if infinity is actually possible in the universe. And is infinity possible in the universe? I find it so unbelievably crazy to think that some things in the universe are infinity, but at the same time, I almost have to believe that some things are infinity. Otherwise, my brain just gets extremely confused. So let's talk about the edge of the universe. The universe is technically, at some points, expanding faster than the speed of light. And by the way, if you haven't watched my dark energy video, go ahead and watch that. That'll explain why things can go faster than the speed of light without breaking general relativity. So we'll never actually, if we wanted to, we could never, ever, ever get to the edge of the universe. So just pretend we built a spaceship that went 99.99999 billions of nines percent of the speed of light. We'd never reach the edge of the universe. So we could never actually know what is at the edge of the universe, and that also causes a problem for us. So unless we somehow create some sort of wormhole or do some crazy things that most physicists, in fact almost all physicists, think are impossible, we will never reach the edge of the universe, and we will also never know. And if somehow they magically did do that, they'd probably cause some sort of time rip and cause a lot of problems in space. So overall, I mean, probably not a fantastic thing if we did eventually learn what the edge of the universe actually consists of. But if we actually went to the edge of the universe, I don't know what would be there. I don't think a lot of people know what would be there, but you have to understand that it's probably just absolutely nothing. It's not space, it's not time, it's not anything like that. Time doesn't exist outside of the universe, so it doesn't actually exist. It's not that there's nothing there, it's just it doesn't exist. And that's a hard concept to grasp, that nothing versus doesn't exist. And that's the way I think about it. You guys, if you have a better explanation, go ahead and put it in the comments, and maybe people will like that just a little bit better than the way I explain it. So how about infinity and the universe's size? So like I said earlier, the universe's size is about 10 times 1 times 10 to the 26th meters, or 26 zeros meters. But that's just the observable universe. That is not the entire universe. We actually don't know exactly how big the entire universe is. Of course, we think the universe is basically flat. It doesn't curve back in onto itself, and it doesn't make space-time doesn't actually make a sphere where it would be finite. It could in fact be flat but not be infinite as well, but it could be flat and infinite, but it couldn't be spherical or round and infinite. That just doesn't really make much sense, because eventually it would curve in on itself. Current cosmological models think that it probably is flat, and I'm going to go with that as well. I think it makes the most sense for the universe to be flat. I think if it curves in on itself, it just doesn't really make much sense to me. But personally, I think it's so unbelievably unreasonable to believe that space and time, or space-time, can actually be infinite. I just think it doesn't make sense to me. And let me explain that really quick to you guys. Why do I think it's impossible for space-time to be infinite? Well, it's not that I think it's impossible. I just think it sounds so unbelievably illogical that if I believed this, I'd need some crazy facts that basically prove it and show it to me exactly. And if we're just guessing right now, I'm going to go with the universe is not infinite. So why do I believe this? Well, let's just go and just have a quick thought experiment. Pretend that the universe is infinite. That means that there's infinite matter in the universe. And if you have infinity, you have infinity chances for anything to happen. And when I say anything, I mean anything to happen. So not only that, if you have something that's infinity, does it even need to follow the laws of physics because it's infinity? I don't know. I don't think it really does, because infinity chances are possible in this infinite universe. So eventually you get to parts of this universe where the laws of physics break down and we have new laws of physics because of infinity and the infinitesimal point of having every single chance possible actually happening. But beyond that, just pretend that the entire universe has to follow all the laws of physics, which I'm not sure it does. Now you have infinite amount of galaxies, infinite amount of stars, infinite amount of planets, and guess what else you have? Infinite amount of yous. Let that soak in for a second. If there's an infinite amount of chances for everything to happen, that means everything does happen every single second. So there's a you in a different part of the universe, and not just one of you. There's thousands upon millions upon billions of, in fact, infinite amount of you, with 3 arms, with 4 arms, with 18 arms, with 23 arms, with 58 eyes, with all these random things. Also, that one girlfriend that you really wished you had. There's a universe where you got that girlfriend. There's one of these ones where you're dating Katy Perry or whoever your favorite actress is. There's one of these universes, not one of these universes, one of these parts of these universes where that is happening at this very moment. Not even happening every single smallest amount of second you could possibly think of, because that's infinity for you. That is infinity. And you know what? That just doesn't make sense to me. So if I blew your mind a little bit thinking about what if there was an infinite universe, I hope I did. And I hope that that makes sense to you, that that's why I don't want to believe in an infinite universe. I want to believe in a universe that doesn't have all of those possible chances, and I don't really like the thought of having a trillion me or an infinite amount of me doing different things in all these universes, because I like to be unique and I like to think of myself as a unique person. And when that is possible, it makes me kind of sad. It makes me sad on the inside. So that's all I got for you guys today. Just think about, what if there wasn't an infinite amount of you, and what if you were lucky enough to be in one of those universes where you're a trillionaire, dating whoever your favorite actress is, have a giant penis, and live in a giant mega super house, and have everything you could possibly ever want. Well, that would be very, very, very lucky, but guess what? It's happening right now if there's an infinite universe. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.